Good morning, friends. Say good morning, sweet Maya.
Good morning, sweet Maya.
I taught Maya how to save the seeds so that whenever I put them in a jar to ferment and then forget it and leave it there, it doesn't actually spoil. That's Kajari melon seeds. And yeah, I'm gonna do a video soon talking about how to save different kinds of seeds. One important step is that if you are so forgetful that you are going to continuously forget them fermenting in a jar, teach your husband how to strain them. Last night down in the garden, we found that some of our melons, which these are, I'm probably gonna say it wrong because it's French and I'm Arkansan, but it's Chantenay. I don't know. Anyway, they were starting to split a little bit. And so we went ahead and picked them and brought them in and stuck them in the fridge. So I'm gonna cut them. And if they're good, I'm gonna feed them the kids for breakfast. This melon wasn't fully developed. You can see how some of the seeds weren't done developing. I'll go ahead and save the ones that seem to be fully developed, but I just make sure I label the bag when I save seeds like this, because I don't mind growing something or trying something and it failing, or trying something and it not being, these I don't, you know, these could have been cross-pollinated, I have no idea, but I'll save them and just grow them as an experiment, but I'll mark it to make sure I don't send them to somebody else. My suspicion of this is that it's probably not going to be very ripe. Yeah, it's totally not. It's okay, like it's edible, but it's not the delicious, fragrant, super soft, juicy thing that the reviews of this melon say it should be. I'm gonna leave the other two and maybe they will ripen just a little bit more. Honestly, if that melon tastes that good, not even fully ripe, I can't imagine what it's like whenever it is. It's way better even now than like what you would buy at the store. I've got to go get myself ready for this day. I'm not gonna vlog in my pajamas all day. All right, now I'm fresh and ready. It's time to head down to the garden. But first, check this out. My new garden cart got here today, or yesterday. Jeremiah's gonna build it. I'm super excited. It's one of those things that's like, why didn't I buy this sooner? Last year I used the kids' wagon and it just wasn't working. But I'm pumped about that. I'm gonna be doing a lot of work in the garden today. I'm about to go through and pick all the tomatoes because we're gonna water, and then I'm gonna be saving some seeds and getting ready to replant some things where I'm having to pull out some other things. Check this out. I saw this happening from the window this morning. Sunflowers. Now sunflowers, they bloom and then the heads continue to grow as the seeds develop. And as you can see by these, they begin like hanging their heads as the seeds get real big and heavy. But I saw a little bird feasting on these seeds this morning. Now, they haven't found the other ones. These are still heavy and full of seeds. Same here. You see that? See all the seeds. But I don't want them to eat all of these before they're gone. They aren't fully dry yet, So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut all of these sunflowers since they're all hanging their heads down. Their seeds are actually full size. They're not dry. So I'm going to cut these stalks out and take them into the house to dry so that I can save the seeds and not give them to all the birds. Got a little bit of cloud cover for a second. I thought I'd take a quick break and tell you guys a little bit of what I'm doing down here in the garden. I know I do my garden tours every week and I kind of show you the status of where everything is, but you don't get to see a lot of this part because, you know, it's hot and sweaty and it's really hard to video while doing this stuff. But I'm kind of doing some work here on this bed that's down on the end. It's where my hill country okra is, and that teepee was right here, and I had some gherkin cucumbers growing there. But the heat is really hard on cucumbers, and they're getting to the point that they're incredibly bitter. The plants are kind of dying back and really struggling. So since we have such a long season, what I'm doing is I'm just pulling them all out and getting ready to plant the same exact cucumbers just in other places of the garden so that we can have a second wave of cucumbers later this year. I like to do that because, you know, at this point I've made a ton of pickles. It'll give me a break of processing those for a little while, and the flavor's just not that great. So this is actually a gherkin that has been allowed to grow full size. It's a variety called Parisian pickling cucumber. It is one of my favorite gherkin cucumbers. They just have really good flavor. They grow really well. The plants stay pretty healthy. So what I did is I let this stay on the vine until it's full size, and they do turn orange. They get really big and smooth, and so now I can save the seeds of this in order to plant more. Next to this, I had a few tomato plants that were kind of an afterthought when I had so many extras in the greenhouse that I came and I planted here where I had my carrots, and I haven't done anything. I had stuck some stakes in these, but I hadn't been keeping an eye on them. I just found this, but it was laid on the ground, so it's full of bugs. Quite unfortunate. That's a Kellogg's breakfast, so it's not even fully ripe yet, but it's got a lot of bug holes in it. I went ahead and picked it. And then we moved this teepee trellis, which is 2 1/3 pieces of cattle panel tied at the top with zip ties, and we just moved it down, put all these tomatoes through it so they would have some support. And I'm tearing out everything that was there. There were some weeds, there was some sweet alyssum that I had planted under the cucumbers. And I'm just getting this bed completely cleaned out of weeds. And in the places that are completely empty, back here where I had kale, and here where those cucumbers were, I'm going to bring over a load of composted manure from our horses, and I'm gonna go ahead and put that in this bed and re-mulch it and just leave it for a minute. I just don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. I'm kind of starting to formulate my plan for the fall garden, which here you can plant fall varieties starting around August 15th so that they're germinating and beginning to grow through the hot months, the middle to end of August, and then September. And then as the temperatures begin to break in September, that's when they'll be starting to set flower and set their pods and their fruit and into the cool weather. So today, as I'm tearing these things out, kind of resetting some of these spaces, I'm keeping in mind the list of things that I'm wanting to plant for fall, and then I'm also keeping in mind the things that I'm wanting to replant in the summer for the second wave. Next task is saving seeds for this lettuce, this Marvel of 4 Seasons lettuce. Now I've picked some of them so far, but now I'm like really like, okay, I need to save as much as I'm going to so I can go ahead and pull the rest of the plants out before it completely seeds my entire bed with Marvel of 4 Seasons lettuce. So I've got all these dried up flowers that came up on the top of the lettuce, and I'm just opening up the pods that are dry enough and putting the seeds here on my shorts, and then I'm going to put them in this bag to take into the house. People are surprised that I save seeds in plastic bags. The reason why I do that is to keep the moisture out. The main thing that you have to be careful of is that you don't lock any moisture in. Since it's so hot out here and things might sweat when I go in the house, I usually lay these out like on top of my dehydrator or just somewhere in the kitchen where they're not going to get messed with the bag open, and leave it open for a day or so to make sure that you know, that the temperatures regulate and no condensation accumulates in there. And then after that, I go ahead and seal it up and put it in with the rest of my seeds. One of the questions that I get asked the most whenever people are first starting in with their homesteading efforts is, where do I start? What's the first thing I should get? Now, I was so excited about chickens. I'd wanted chickens forever. And so the first thing I did was I went out and bought 30 straight run chicks from a local guy. We had nowhere to put them. It was really a very impulsive thing that Jeremiah still gives me a hard time about. But you know what I really feel like was a mistake that I did was that I did not immediately focus on a gardening effort. We started with our chickens, which grew really quickly. We joke about chicken math, but you know, we just kept thinking, oh, we could get more, we could sell eggs, we could do more, and we ended up with just a ton of chickens. We got into meat, turkeys. The poultry aspect really took a huge part of our focus for the first probably year of our farm. In that time, we had established 2 4x4 foot raised beds right out of our front door, and then I ended up with another that was like 4x10 foot. And in that, I grew, you know, a lot of things, but not a lot of each thing. I mean, you know, we might get a couple of zucchinis that we could eat with our dinner, or a handful of cherry tomatoes, but it was nothing that was actually sustaining us and making us less reliant on the grocery store. If I had to give an answer of where to start to a new homesteader, I would say focus on your gardening effort. Now, I think getting a small number of chickens to provide your family with fresh eggs is a really good thing to do. A number that you could free range, that you could sustain largely off of scraps from your kitchen or scraps from your garden. I think that would be really good. You know, you can supplement with some sort of non-GMO feed. But if you get into the very large number of poultry, what happens is you become a slave to the feed store. I mean, you're spending a lot of money. It becomes very uneconomical to feed them non-GMO. And so I really think that the most bang for your buck as far as growing your own food, it happens in the garden. You're able to get a lot of nutrition out of a really small space, and then whenever you do add meat into that, or you pair it with the fresh eggs, you're able to actually provide whole meals that don't require you having to go buy things at the store. So basically, if your goal is to become as sustainable as possible in growing your own food, my suggestion would be, right off the bat, get enough chickens to keep your family in fresh eggs, but no more, and start your garden. What are you doing?
Taking this out to the compost.
Does it smell bad? Yeah? All right, I love you. Good job. All right, I've been putting this job off. I've got to pick approximately 4 million Tabasco peppers. I haven't wanted to pick them, 1, because it's tedious, 2, because I just haven't been able to have the time to do anything with them. But ow, shooky doodle. This stool is hot. Burn my buns. All right, picking peppers, take 2. These Tabasco plants are huge. Completely loaded down. I mean, we're picking like hundreds of peppers. Now, I picked these not ripe. They do turn red as they ripen. There's some down here that have, but they get more hot as they get more ripe. And nobody in my family eats super hot stuff, so I don't even grow super hot peppers like ghost peppers and stuff, because it makes me scared to think of my kids coming down and, you know, putting one in their mouth not knowing, and honestly getting hurt, because you can, like, this is too hot for me to eat. So we pick all of them green to make hot sauce out of. Got about half of the plants picked. That's only 3 plants. That's a lot of peppers. So I'm gonna go up to the house. I just got a cool delivery, so I'm gonna go open that up. Let's head up there into the air conditioning. Greg from the Homestead Box asked me if he could send me a box. to do an unboxing. And I said, sure, I would love that because I love presents. So let's take a look at what's in here. That's funny. Okay, so this is the Veggie Gathering box. This is the July 2018. They do a subscription box. And I'm gonna have to be honest, I'm cracking up a little bit that this is what's in here. Because as you know, if you've watched my garden tours, one of my favorite things. I'm absolutely thrilled to have another one because I literally use it all the time and my kids use my roos too. So that's pretty cool. Here is, okay, here it is. Here is a harvesting knife. It's a little sheath. That's neat. Did you see this?
A root apron?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm done now.
Go on.
The people over at the Root Apron are friends of mine, so I love their products. They're really awesome. So it's really neat that they've partnered up with the Homestead Box. Carrot and potato washing brush, that's handy. And an extra soft corn washing brush. Fly punch fruit fly trap. Get rid of fruit flies naturally. That's pretty neat. And here's another little veggie brush. Gotta clean all our stuff. Shallow gorilla tub. This would have been good for those peppers today. And very similar to the hod that I use from Gardeners. Here's one from Haas Tools. So that's pretty cool. This one looks to be about the same size, so that's really neat. So now I have a second hod. Thank you so much, the Homestead Box. If you guys want to check them out, I will link to them down in the info. And I think this is a really cool thing. I think this would be awesome if you have a farm, especially, but also if you're in that stage of like waiting or doing this on a small scale. This might be a really fun way to try out some new things. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Maya finished my garden cart. So handy.
Ready for 800 pounds.
So that means I can have a ride?
Yeah.
Seems like a good idea.
Yep. All right. We're just gonna go out the front and down, down the steps. All right. Here we go.
No, I'm serious, Jeremiah.
I'm serious.
No.
No? Okay.
Give me that. Hey, taking it out front without me in it, which is really the better idea. You're bad. Back down in the garden, me and Maya came down here to take a look at the sunflowers. And basically, these heads they're not really dry enough to harvest the seeds. You're looking for the back of these heads to turn from green to yellow and to brown. So this one's yellow. These other ones are still fairly green. However, because the birds, I don't think that they're gonna last long enough if I leave them out here. So we're gonna go ahead and cut them. Oh, that big one is turning slightly brown. We're gonna go ahead and cut them and take them and hang them upside down in our garage until they're fully dry, and then we'll pull the seeds out. So I'm going to pull all these leaves off, and we're going to trim this and keep as much of the length of these stems as possible, and I'm going to set them up just so they'll dry out so we can use this to like stake a pepper plant or whatever. Just kind of like how you would use a piece of bamboo. They'll dry out and you can use them as support for other plants. Nice cart.
Ow.
Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. We have some friends that are coming over for dinner. They'll be here in a little while, so we're gonna go tie up these sunflowers. I'm gonna get to cooking. Until next time.